This is 37 Families, Season 4, Chapter 3. In this episode, we will be drawing the discussion of the last two episodes into the nature of non-linearity. To start off, all that defines non-linearity is an imbalance between the synchronicity in one space or between two participating observers and some others. In other words, where there is a differential of synchronicity within the interactions or intersections between two groups, it produces a non-linear experience for the group with a higher rate or experience of time. As a general framework, this makes sense, since we know that non-linearity is largely defined by three rules. 1. You act on every impulse. 2. You act with full commitment. And 3. You accept the consequences of doing so. Since we know that non-linearity exists just beyond the consensual space of most actors, we can see that there are distinct levels of synchronicity segregated by the level of synchronicity inherent to them. In other words, where two individuals exist within distinct levels of synchronicity, the higher one exists in a non-linear space relative to the second. Thus, it also follows that dissonant consensualities form for expression, since these synchronicity levels exist independently of whether or not people act on their impulses. From this we can see that the nonlinearity described in past podcasts describes simply a higher frequency of synchronicity associated with given intersections with other actors. This tells us that not only is reality nested according to the 9 plates of expression, it is also segmented according to distinct synchronicity bands, as between a given set of interacting individuals. The highest synchronicity band merely being that I have previously described as nonlinear space, a consensuality which exists slightly beyond the consensualities of linear people. Now, from this we can see that our podcast in Season 3, Chapter 8, reveals the importance of the 37 families in layering reality according to given synchronicity bands. As two or more linearly related individuals achieve a higher level of synchronicity as between them, generating a non-linear space amongst other unrelated individuals who are nearby, we can see that linearly related individuals possess the capacity to generate a kind of non-linearity as a consequence of their genetic resonance. We can imagine that from the reference frame of the linearly related individuals, time moves more quickly relative to the reference frame of the non-linearly related individuals. It is this aggregation which permits the projected intention of the linearly related individuals to undermine the expression of meaning of the non-linearly related individuals. How does this manifest? When we write about projected intentionality, it is important to note that when an individual possesses a higher synchronicity band, their action is perceived as mere projection. In other words, they may speak, but that spoken language is perceived as being a projection rather than an actuality. Thus, in possessing nonlinearity, there is an advantage. It can be understood thus that linearly related individuals, when they aggregate, can generate the highest synchronicity bands, which project their action globally, generating affirmational narratives which descend. From this we can see that the system is constructed not just upon the telescopic effect, the 9 dialogues, but also upon synchronicity bands, created by differential synchronicity inherent to lineal links. That's the end of the podcast for today.